Hey, welcome back everyone to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 163. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel.
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing today? How you doing today, Mike?
Good brother yourself.
I am well.
All right. Those of you coming in, please hit the like button as you come in and share if possible. There's a docket in the description beneath the video. You can use that to follow along. We will get started. Just as an FYI, I'm still offering IT mentorship. So if you want to be mentored, you can send an email to the Black Brain Trust, or you can send me a message directly.
Hey, Mike, I think you muted. Okay, there you go. All right.
You guys having some issues with the browser. All right, first one is from VentureBeat.com. China is building a 5G smart highway for autonomous cars and AI traffic monitoring. China is moving forward in the global race to 5G as state-owned carrier China Mobile has announced that it's already building the first 5G smart highway, a city-scale system of roads capable of supporting cellular network coordinated transportation services. The infrastructure is currently under construction in Wuhan, the capital of China's centrally located Hubei province. As the country's largest telecommunications company, China Mobile plans to roll out a collection of 5G services on the highway, beginning with smart toll stations that could do away with the current transponders and human operators. The carrier also plans to gather real-time traffic information and make AI-assisted predictions using the data, as well as supporting autonomous cars. While China Mobile isn't the world's first carrier to either announce 5G highway plans or begin limited deployments. It may wind up being the first to offer actual commercial and coordinated transportation services on live highways, depending on progress made by rivals in other countries. So South Korean carriers SK Telecom, KT, and LG U Plus have all run limited 5G tests on self-driving vehicles, while Samsung has even set up a fake city to test cars away from people. China Mobile has already installed 31 5G base stations to Wuhan to support the initiative, and the company expects to add an additional 2,000 stations throughout 2019. Specific highway section location planning is currently underway for toll stations testing. The carrier has also applied for autonomous driving test permits, which will presumably enable self-driving cars to share the highway with human-operated vehicles. This is um, this is big stuff, man. What do you think about this, Lionel?
Yeah. Yeah. 5G. Now, with 5G, for people to understand, 5G is gonna let technology scale up really fast. No little to no lag in mobile communications. You're driving through the tunnels and those ominous dead spots when you're just driving and you just don't get no reception. 5G is supposed to handle that, where your download, I think, what was it 100 megabits or 10 megabits a second? You'll be able to download 100 megabits per second. Uh,
35. It's
30.
30. 4G does 35 megabits a second, but 5G does 2,000 megabits per second.
2,000 megabits per second, and that translates to data, not just you downloading the YouTube
Or,
video, but huh?
no, it's 2 gigabits. Sorry, I meant to say 2 gigabits. So 2,000 megabits would be 2,000 would be 2 gigabits.
So that's data also, connectivity, IoT. Now with this, they're saying with predictive traffic, based on that's IoT. So when you're driving down the road, and I'm sure China may put some sensors or those poles that go on top of the road, or whatever the case may be, that will measure traffic. Obviously, we know certain times of the days you're going to get high traffic with rush hour going to and fro from work. But now you can really predict when that is going to come on with the sensors, and that's going to shoot back to your map service in your car or on your phone and say, hey, traffic is beginning to bottleneck or traffic is beginning to show up
Hmm.
at so far ahead. So here's another route home. On top of that, they're going to get rid of these, well, the toll roads. That's what in China, that's going to have a lot of people out of not business, but jobs. And with this, hey, we already know that they already are. China has Huawei has the systems that a lot of people want, a lot of countries want in order to install 5G across the country. Huawei is revered as that standard on in terms of their systems. Um, now with China putting in all of these uh, infrastructure projects to take advantage of 5G, they're going to leap ahead even more than they are now of a lot of countries.
Well, the purpose of the 5G on the highway and for AI traffic monitoring is because if the cars are already connected anyways, all they have to do is broadcast back, so they can determine based on the geographical position and the pace of the vehicle that's connected to the network. That will tell them that gives them the traffic updates, right? So they can determine how fast the vehicles are going, whether or not there's an accident because one car stopped that was connected to the network and now it's offline, or it already put out a SMS message over the network that vehicle failure or um, some form of abruption, right? So that's where all that comes in. You need 5G in order to make this happen. It will be impossible to do it over 4G. Completely impossible. 4G at max moves at 30 to 35 megabits a second. Once you factor in, um, once you factor in, um, just use Boston for a second. Just in Massachusetts, on the major highways, they're looking at something like 100,000 to 200,000 cars a day. So you have a place like China that has a billion people. You're talking a million cars. Probably in a 24-hour span. You need to collect all that data, and that data needs to be processed really, really quickly. And you're moving that much data in such a short amount of time. The only way for something like that to happen is with 5G and artificial intelligence, because you need artificial intelligence to actually sift through the data on its own in real time and make predictions.
Hmm. What's going on, D? How you doing?
Pretty good. Can I say something about this thing?
Yes, sir.
From what I'm seeing, this is leading, especially in China, in the Far East, I should say. It's leading to where, um, if the traffic is such a level that things are moving too slow, they will make you park your car and get on the trains. And they're developing these trains. I don't know if similar to the Disney World thing or airport trains where it takes you from back and forth to the terminal.
Shuttle.
They're developing trains that will stop. There's no driver. Everything is automatic. And if you got an area where the traffic is stopped, they take people off the road. The red lights come on, and you can't go past that area. so they can free up traffic. They can redirect you and all of that. All this is coming. It's not here yet. I don't see anybody here preparing for it, but this is coming in China already.
Well, that's easy for China to do it in comparison to the United States. The United States is kind of broke, right? The United States has 8,000 bridges um, under the Obama administration that were considered to be condemned, right? So you had two bridges that actually collapsed in the United States under Obama, and I think under Bush. Um, I think it was in Minnesota or Oregon or something like that. It was in one of the
It was Minnesota.
it was in Minnesota, and there was another one as well that collapsed as well. But that proves the point that the United States infrastructure is crumbling, and they spent all their hard-earned their pennies on military. They spent it in the Middle East, so they robbed the infrastructure budget, for military purposes. I mean, you can't even fill the potholes in Chicago, so you can't. I can't imagine. If you can't fill a pothole, you're not ready for any sort of next generation fourth industrial operations. You're just not ready for anything like that.
Yeah, but this is like you said, China has 1.1 billion people, and understandably, a fraction of those people still have cars. Have cars. Maybe let's say 300 million people have cars, but that's a lot of people in these mega cities that they have, such as Shenzhen, Beijing. What's the other one? Guangzhou. It's like 10 plus million people.
Shanghai.
These Shanghai. These are mega future mega cities. So you need some type of infrastructure to alleviate the traffic in those cities, and not only in these mega cities of China, but mega cities around the world. But more specifically, China. Since we're speaking about China, this can really alleviate congestion, bottlenecks, um, and rush hour traffic.
Hmm. All right, this next one is from TechCrunch.com. Toyota doubles down on NVIDIA tech for self-driving cars. Toyota is deepening its relationship with NVIDIA as the automaker and its research arms in Japan and U.S. ramps its ramps up its autonomous vehicle development program. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang announced Monday during the keynote at the 2019 GPU Technology Conference that Toyota Research Institute Advanced Development, the automaker's Japan-based research arm, is using the chipmaker's full end-to-end development and production to develop, train, and validate its autonomous vehicle technology. The partnership builds on an ongoing collaboration with Toyota and is based on development between engineering teams from NVIDIA, Triad in Japan, and Toyota Research Institute in the United States.
Hello.
Which is now available to customers. Toyota is the first customer to use Constellation, a cloud based platform that enables autonomous vehicle developers to test their technology in the. Did I just lose connection?
Yeah, for about 5 seconds.
Okay. NVIDIA and Toyota have been collaborating for several years now. Toyota announced in 2017 it would use NVIDIA's Drive PX supercomputer, a platform with a processor called Xavier to power the autonomous driving system inside its future cars. Toyota Toyota intends to eventually deploy fully autonomous cars that would serve.
Yeah, you dropped out again.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on.
You left out Toyota fully implements cars that will serve. You left off there.
Yeah, that would serve elderly and disabled people under its so-called chauffeur system. The automaker is also working on Guardian, a system for production vehicles that will operate in the background and step in when needed. The driver is always going, is driver is always driving, but Guardian is watching, sensing, and anticipating problems. It's unclear if Toyota will use NVIDIA's platform for the development of Guardian system or fully autonomous vehicles. This is um this is interesting because development takes time, and when you partner yourself with a a company like Nvidia, you're going for the long haul. So what happens when you do something like that? That means you're putting all your chips into one basket for the most part, and you already um, dug your heels in and said this is where we're going to be going, and this is the direction that we're going to be going. So I would definitely put my I would definitely watch the stock ticker for Toyota and Nvidia for the next few quarters.
Yeah, Toyota, I agree with what you're saying. Toyota is looking at the future, and they are trying to. Well, not trying. They are. You can actually see them per these articles. They are making a move for the future to solidify their brand and their products with future technology. A few days ago, I sent out an email saying how JAX, the Japanese space agency, partnered with Toyota to build a rover for Mars when they go to Mars. And I'm thinking like, wow, Toyota building like a company building um, space exploration equipment for a country. And I know Boeing and other people do that, but with rovers, Toyota, it shows Toyota is making a move for the future. They know about space exploration. They know about autonomous vehicle. And now with this, there it's like they put themselves in a mind frame of, hey, we already have a working autonomous vehicles that are on the street. Now, how can we therefore make them safer for people? How can we therefore make them even more useful and practical for people? So, like I know Paul Bryant always tell us that Germany and Japan have 100, 200, 300 year um, not deadlines. What's the word I'm looking for? Plans. So this fits into that. It's like like I said, it's like they're telling themselves, okay, we already have this, so how can we further this technology?
Hmm. Well, Toyota goes from being a car company to being an engineering firm for
Mhm.
transportation, right? And I think most car companies are going to be this way. I think Ford has talked about becoming just a transportation company rather than a car manufacturer.
Yeah, and I think I heard GM say in the future refer to them as a tech firm.
Yeah, that's the direction that everybody's going into. So, Tesla is. That's what I was trying to explain before some weeks ago about Tesla. That Tesla is not a car company; they are a tech company first, more than anything else. Yeah, they make cars, but the cars that they make are very tech based. They're not, they're not in, gas combustible based vehicles. So they're not looking at it from a legacy standpoint. They're looking at the next 20 to 30 years where they're going to be, and tech is where they're going to be. So, do you have anything
Mhm.
to add to this?
Yeah, you guys are quite right because with the technology nowadays, you can pretty much go from automobile to it's except for the wheels on the ground, everything else can go from your automobile to a space vehicle. And the say I'm building a card for control auto control.
Hmm.
You know, I can take that card and put with a program can reprogram that card, the same card from an automobile to fly my Cessna. I might not be able to fly out into to Mars, but to fly my Cessna. So you have to be spread out across the whole spectrum of technology nowadays. Otherwise, you're gonna lose.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And this opens up a whole entire market space for startup firms, in predominantly black neighborhoods. You have the ability to actually start working on robotics and artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning, deep neural networks, cloud computing. You have the leverage now. I mean, you go back 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you didn't have all of that flexibility before. If you wanted to start something in the 90s or in the early 2000s, that was very risky. You had to spend a lot of money because you needed servers, you needed computers, you needed staff, and all this other amenities that was not really affordable. Now, if you can raise $100,000 and eat off ramen noodles and water for a few months or even a year, you can get something up and going. It's very plausible now.
A couple of days ago, last week, you guys were talking about renting space on people renting space on somebody's computer, because everybody now who has the who used to use their computer for mining
Hmm.
can now put some of their speed and space online so I can use it. And
Exactly.
people got to do that.
Hmm.
We in the black community have to start out like that because we don't actually have the money to put into building a warehouse. You know what I'm saying? We don't have the money to build a warehouse, but we can use that space. So we want to use that space for a week. So you lease it for a week. You want to crunch some numbers and see what kind of what your business is going to be like and what you going to if you're going to manufacture something, what is it going to be looking like? Then you can do that.
Oh, you're talking about predictive modeling. So you're talking about trying to get a general ballpark of what it's going to cost you for a startup. You're trying to get some simulation. Yeah,
Right.
that's possible. That's definitely possible. I do think it's going to get cheaper over the next year and a half. To maybe by 2022, it's going to be roughly so cheap that it's almost impractical not to do it. So it's just a matter of people's literacy. Understanding the emerging technologies and taking the time to actually read and study up on this stuff. Because if you don't have the general literacy, you're going to be lost because the technology moves way too fast. It moves too fast for you to not actually do your own due diligence on reading.
Yeah,
It's just a
man.
fact.
Yeah, I agree with that because some of the stuff I read, people are going into business of taking advantage of, or capitalizing on that deterrence of due diligence and learning the new technology. So people that there's actually like a people going into business because the people don't want to do that.
Hmm.
I'm going to mute up for about 10 minutes.
All right, let me get to the next article. All right, this next one is from BMW. So BMW Motorrad X2 City mobility scooters, electric scooter. So get a good look at it here. I was hoping that Complex Design would actually come onto this because he could speak more to the micro transportation platform. But this is a new scooter from BMW that is electric based. Let me just read the first paragraph. The X2 City changes everything because the electric pedelec scooter takes you exactly there and is also a lot of fun. Light, compact, and foldable, it easily fits into small cars, boots, which is a trunk, and also can be taken on buses and trains. So not only can you cruise breezily and free of emissions, but you can also speedily zip through city and avoid traffic up to 25 kilometers an hour. Y'all hit the like button, please. 15 people watching, only 12 likes. Hit the like button. Oh, thanks to the compact dimensions, the X2 City takes up even less space than most affordable bicycles. Despite this, the little pedelec scooter makes a big impression in city traffic. Thanks to the gear hub motor, you can also use it as a normal kick scooter when the battery is empty. With the charged battery, the BMW Motorrad X2 City can accelerate up to 25 kilometers. The control panel on the handlebars give you five speed levels to choose from: 8, 12, 16, 20, and 25 kilometers. The energy for the electric motor is supplied by a rain and splash proof lithium ion battery with 408 watts per hour, which is integrated into the vehicle's frame. With with it, depending on your riding style, you can travel between 25 and 35 kilometers, enough to get through the city from A to B and back again. So so that you can so that you don't need to remove the battery every time. The X2 City has an external charging plug, meaning that you can easily charge it up again and using a normal household socket. A full charge takes only 2.5 hours. With the X2 City, both you and your smartphone are mobile at all times. It can be charged using the integrated micro USB port while riding and whenever you need it. By the way, it is not a legal requirement to wear a helmet while riding the BMW X2 City, although it is recommended. This is this is really cool. DE, what do you think about this? Just looking at it.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen about 10 others that do the same thing. And the funny thing is, um, I was in Taiwan late last year, and in Taiwan, in China also, and I've seen some other places like Philippines also where you can put these things on the buses. If you want to go from city to city, you can go on the high speed HR, high speed rail. You can take your bike on board the train. When you get to Taipei, you know, you can use it, go around the city. And at night when you're coming home, you bring your bike back with you. So the problem what I see with these here is that the cities in America are all making laws that are like obstacles for people to use these things. I mean, when I'm in Taiwan, I can walk from where I am about 1 kilometer, put my credit card or whatever. I buy some go to 7-Eleven, buy a card, stick
Hmm.
the card in the meter, rent one of these, ride it around, bring it back, park it, and go back home.
Hmm. Yeah, this is really advanced stuff. Especially coming from BMW. I know Ford has their own little scooter that they're working on. But BMW, just the branding itself is really powerful for a product like this. If I was buying an electric scooter right now, I know everybody buys the Xiaomi 3 M360s, but this is like next level in terms of in terms of product.
This is the first big name. This is the first big name. When I say big name, it's like FGM were making scooters, or Toyota making scooters. This is the first big name that come into the market. There are smaller names that in there. There's one like that makes a vehicle called Go Go in Taiwan,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have a worldwide brand like BMW.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at it from this picture right here, let's look at the tires, look at the spokes, look at the chassis design. It's just well thought out. It's what you expect from the Germans. It's what you expect from European design. It's well thought out, and it's pretty big too. Just looking at the and you can look at this dashboard right here, this little micro dashboard that it has with the BMW uh, logo on it. That's where your speed mechanisms and whatnot are actually implemented. But if you look at this picture here, you can look how big it is compared to the people that are riding it in the background.
I don't know if they're gonna allow you to put a seat on that, but I've seen one similar. It has a seat on it where I seen a kid and his grandmother or granddaddy riding one of these.
Hmm.
So it's a useful piece of equipment, and with BMW behind it, it's going to be good.
Now, would you ride something like this, D?
Oh yeah, like I told
At,
you.
even at your age?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That would
If
be
I could put
interesting.
the best thing that they will do for me is put a seat on that thing. The seat that I can put it on, and I
Hmm.
can take it off when I don't want to. If I want to go from here, say 5, 10 kilometers, I can sit. And if I want to just go around the corner, I can stand if I want to. That would be ideal.
Well, you got to wait for Cadillac to do something like that.
But I've seen some with seats also in Far East.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I this is on my radar. I just want to put that out there. This is on my radar. I definitely got to get one of these. I've seen other scooters before, and they're they got the small wheels. They're really they're not all that. This one has suspension. If you really look at it, let me see if I can find a picture of it. Oh, here it is right here. So if you look where my mouse cursor is,
Yeah.
it's a single shock tower. It's a single shock tower, so it's very light from what I understand. Let me see if I can find the specs on it. Oh, it's not there. No. I know. Did you have anything you want to add to this? I guess not. I know Complex is in the chat. I thought he would be able to speak more to something like this about the
I
engineering.
can't speak to more something like this.
Hey, what's going on, dude?
What's up? What's
Chilling,
going on,
man.
you guys? Yeah, this thing's pretty gnarly, man.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What's
I
your take
mean,
on it so far?
well, just be ready to see more of these types of offerings from other major automotive manufacturers. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about Ford getting into the scooter game, and BMW has a lot of electric mobility tech that they haven't. The market's now just coming online for them to roll it out. There's always been like in their R&D labs and some of their design and some of the design offices and stuff. They toy around and design stuff like this all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But what they've been waiting for is a mature market to bring this stuff to the market. Um, so I would expect to see more automotive manufacturers coming out with these types of vehicles here. $2,000 price point. I would say for electric scooter, it's a little high, but then again, it's a BMW, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it's going to be the price is kind of appropriate for the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a rear hub motor I see? Disc brakes,
Mm-hmm.
lithium ion battery pack, and I mean, it has some other some other features too. But I mean, just in looking at the triangulation and the frame design,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very snazzy design, man. I like it. Looks like it's very comfortable to ride too. Any scooters that have pneumatic tires, man, are always going to be better to ride than the ones that have like hard compound rubber.
Mm-hmm.
A Complex. What do you think of this as a business? If you can get BMW selling one of these at about 1,000, and you can put a business in Miami, um, any city that, well, even New York City, from I guess from about April to about October.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only issue I would have is that you're putting BMWs out there to do that. I would I would rather use like the Xiaomi. Mike mentioned the M365s, the Xiaomi scooters, because they have a similar construction in terms of like the platform and the pneumatic tires and all that. It's similar, but it's way less. It's way less expensive for the type of abuse it would take, like out on the road. These right here, man. Like I said, I don't know if I would want to put some BMW scooters out there for that.
No, these are personal transportation. This is for people who want to own. their own
Yeah.
micro transportation. Whereas the Xiaomi M360s, you know, that's more for durability of a different ride sharing model.
Yeah, it's produced for the commercial market.
And the thing is, people who buy BMWs are more inclined to probably buy this for their siblings, right? So this is sold at BMW dealerships. You go into a BMW dealership, and it's like, oh well, if you're a former BMW owner or a current BMW owner, we'll discount it based on this. And
Mhm.
then you get a tax break and tax incentive by buying this. If you buy a new M3 or M4 or something like that, we'll
They'll
throw in this.
throw these things. Yep, they'll throw it in there.
Yeah, that's all this is about. People who buy BMWs are going to be the ones to buy this, and BMW already has a very vast market, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal to sell it for the most part.
Hmm. And I mean the components in it, like it's like a hub motor and all that type of stuff. I mean, those are those components aren't expensive to be had.
Hmm.
In looking at it, you're really buying the BMW brand, the brand name. The scooter, the components in the scooter itself, they're not like they're not like some one-offs or anything like that. Those are basic components, but it's a BMW design and brand. That's largely what you're paying for.
Hmm. Yeah, and plus BMW makes really good motorcycles. If I remember correctly,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think the state highway patrol for California,
They
CHP.
do. They all run They have BMW bikes for those, man.
Yep.
Those things get up, dude.
Yeah, they're a lot cheaper. They're a lot more. The TCO on it, the total cost of ownership, is a lot more affordable than a Harley. That's
Hmm.
what I understand. So
Yeah.
um, the market has already spoken on that in that regard.
Hmm. And I think BMW also they recently released their like self-balancing bike. Also, I think I saw something about that recently too. So these are all interesting offerings from BMW.
Hmm.
Let me just say one thing. The reason I don't have any comments on this because I don't know about bikes and cars like you all, so I'm more of a spectator and listening to you all. So that's why I'm quiet for people who want to know.
All right. All right. The next one is from electric.com. Lightning strike electric motorcycle photos and specs leak. Here they are. So this is an electric motorcycle. For those of you paying attention, this is a crotch rocket. Looks similar to like a Ducati Panigale 1199 from what I can gather.
Yeah, they got the camouflage going on, so you can't really pick out the body details.
Hmm. The Lightning Strike electric motorcycle is set to be officially unveiled on Thursday, but thanks to Cycle News jumping the gun, the majority of the specs on the most affordable electric sport bike have been already been released. Check them out below. News outlets often get sneak peeks at new products in advance or of official unveilings and launches. Those materials are embargoed until the actual launch and give us enough time to prepare a well-written article for our readers. So we'll just go down to the specs. Lightning Strike is designed as a 600 sport equivalent. It has a top speed of 150 miles an hour in its track gearing setup. The bike reportedly features a 70 kilowatt, 94 horsepower motor in the $12,998 base model. The higher spec version will offer an upgrade to 90 kilowatt, 121 horsepower. The Lightning Strike's motor apparently a 150 volt liquid cooled three-phase AC induction motor and also sports a liquid cooled controller. At such high power levels, liquid cooling becomes a necessity to sustain power for longer periods of time. This is it's hard to I'm a person who rides motorcycles too. I have my license and everything. So, it, it's hard to get around not hearing an engine crank up and not being able to rev your throttle and split lanes and you know the traditional factors of a motorcycle make this hard. It makes it difficult to accept something like this.
Yeah, man. I think what it is like we have a traditional we have a traditional association with vehicles and gasoline, right? Especially at high performance,
Hmm.
right? Any high performance where we're talking sport bikes. I remember on a previous hangout, man, we were like drooling over like the MV Augustas, for example, right?
Hmm.
You know, you ever hear one of these things cranked up? Like there's no sound like it.
Right.
You know, you hear like you hear a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder 16 valve like a Toyota 4G63 motor.
Hmm.
Um, just the sound of it, man. These are just insane sounds. You know, even like the old DTM cars, the German Touring Masters cars from like the early '90s, man. Those V6 naturally aspirated V6 is just the sound of them. You
Hmm.
know, however, as somebody who I do both electric karting and I do traditional gas karting, right? So two-stroke engines, you know, the real high pitch wah, noise, and then you have the electric. What it is that it's the performance variances. So you kind of have to get out of the sound giving you sort of like the sort of like, I don't know, like the giving you that indication of the performance, right? You have to kind of get out of that and you have to get into the feel, because electric vehicles don't make much noise. So what you feel though is that instant torque, instant power. The power delivery is way different. It's a whole different animal. There's no latency where you're waiting for the combustion process, right, to convert into horsepower to then convert down into power put down to the wheel. With an electric motor, it's instant torque. So as soon as you hit it, boom, and then if the controller is just programmed to kind of give you a little bit of latency on the throttle and whatnot, then that be the case. But it's the performance difference. That's really what, when they look at electric vehicles and they're like, ah, man, I just don't know. Then they get into one and then they drive it. Then that's when they're sold. So I think with the bike, it's going to be no different. I think with the bikes, um, it'll just be a different type of power delivery, and it'll just take a little bit of getting used to.
It's an instant power delivery because it's all single geared, right? So
Hmm.
you crank that throttle, man, you turn you upside down really quick.
Well, yeah. Also, I mean, it's like the balance of the bike, because it is the electric bikes are going to be a bit heavier. They're going to be a little bit on the heavier side. Um, but that's where the controller comes in, right? Where they kind of program the power delivery.
Hmm.
They optimize it they are going to optimize the power delivery to prevent that type of stuff. But
Right.
there's also going to be settings that you can set, right? There's going to be cruise mode all the way up to ridiculous mode or something like that. So you might be able to get that type of output if you set it to ridiculous mode or something.
Yeah, ludicrous speed.
Ludicrous speed. There it is.
All right, let me get to this next one. All right, next one is from RT.com. Boeing's latest crashes pose serious risk to global artificial intelligence development, analysts.
Hmm.
Two deadly crashes involving Boeing's newest airplane in less than 6 months puts in jeopardy not only the credibility of the manufacturer, but also new technologies actively being pushed by the world's top tech firms. All Boeing 737 MAX 8 planes operated by global carriers were grounded early this month after an Ethiopian Airlines aircraft crashed shortly after takeoff, taking a steep nosedive not far from Nairobi. The fatal accident, which claimed 157 lives, followed a similar crash in Indonesia, which killed all 189 people on board in October. The two crashes appear to have something in common. The crews on both aircraft reportedly struggled with the MAX 8 autopilot system, which pointed the nose of the plane down before the crash. The implications on the deadly incidents are much bigger than aviation itself, according to Alessandro Bruno, an independent international affairs and aerospace industry analyst. I think this accident shows the limitations of artificial intelligence, and it should convince Elon Musk and Tesla to slow down efforts to push down self-driving cars. The expert told RT. highlighting that the latest crashes occurred due to software problems, not mechanical ones. A recall on Boeing's flagship planes, lawsuits from global air carriers, and a fall in manufacturers' market value may undoubtedly result from result in the firm lagging behind Airbus, the key rival. According to Vladimir uh, Rojankovsky, an expert at the International Financial Center in Moscow, I think if this scandal is not extinguished in time, it will trigger deep concerns over the entire sector of artificial intelligence and its credibility, the analyst said in an interview with RT. He stressed that the burning desire of tech giants to get rid of the need for human labor and thus salaries may shatter confidence in the maturity of artificial intelligence and its development. Americans should know this because when they landed on the moon, the computers failed. So they had to land manually, Bruno said. I did not know that. DE, you're a former Air Force guy. What do you think about planes going down?
Not only am I a former Air Force guy, I work for one of the big three airlines here. And this airplane is one of the airplanes that if I was going to buy a personal airplane, I would buy the 37, probably the 400 or 800. But this airplane has got unique problems, and the FAA should have made Boeing run this airplane through the same test, or a majority of everything that they changed on the airplane, they should have made Boeing do at least a year testing on, and then knock out the bugs. The problem with this airplane is that you got a rebuilt wing. That the old 37 didn't have, and you, instead of putting the new crew, the crew who's going to fly these airplanes into a simulator and put them through 200-300 hours of failures, they just put them into the airplane and let them fly the airplane and say, well, we're going to give you this program on your laptop and you can check it out and see all the differences. That's what Boeing did. And that was the biggest error that they made. The guy who was flying the captain on that 37 never flew the airplane before. And that was
you need something like 1,000 flight hours before you can actually captain, right?
Yes, on American or anybody like that, they don't put you in the captain's seat until you got big hours, and they put you in the, if you haven't flown that airplane before, they put you through simulator after simulator after simulator. I mean, hours and hours and hours of simulated time. And they put you through all the failures because you know how to fly the airplane. It's a 737. But this one has many differences that will make it feel different. Okay, let me tell you something. When they put the winglets on the old 737 and the old 757, I had captains tell me, this airplane don't want to land. Do you know? I don't understand. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying, but when you push that nose over or when you reduce power, instead of the airplane, you feel the airplane. I don't know if you've been on an airplane, you feel like this little, like it's settling down. When the captain say, "Hey, we're going to be landing soon," and you can hear the engines going, wind down, and the airplane suddenly starts falling. The 57 has got winglets. That doesn't happen. It keeps flying for a few seconds before it starts going down, and the 37 does the same thing. But the problem with this airplane is that the AOA, when they put in this a different type of system with the AOA, where if the airplane thinks it's stalling, when the airplane get to a certain, it's supposed to be taken off at five degrees nose up.
Hmm.
If it goes to 8 degrees, the airplane pitches the nose over. The autopilot computer pitches the nose over, so you can pick up speed again, because now it feels like the airplane is going to stall. And if the information that you're getting from the AOA is incorrect because of the program that you put into the box, it's going to cause a problem. The old 737, when that starts happening, all the captain had to do is pull back on the stick. Just a sudden pull on the stick, it would automatically disconnect the system. These airplanes, it doesn't disconnect. So if you're a captain like the Ethiopian Air, he's pulling and pulling on that stick, and the airplane is doing, every time he puts the airplane in the correct attitude, the airplane goes back to the old attitude. So it's nose up, nose down, porpoise, what we used to call porpoising. And he couldn't figure out what to do with his airplane because he wasn't trained on it.
Hmm.
So there are two ways you can disconnect that system: pull the circuit breaker, and there's some paddle switches on there that disconnects the autopilot from the the that disconnects the autopilot, which will keep the stabilizer, the horizontal stabilizer from moving. Now you can control it with the stick. And Boeing took away that control. Airbus took away that control when they built the A320. And Boeing kept it in all their 737s, all their aircraft up to now.
What would be the reason for removing it?
Cost.
Well, what happened is that on takeoff, you have like 3 stages of autopilot. And you've got an autopilot that keeps your airplane straight, the nose of the airplane straight as you go down the runway. That's the first, like, step one in the autopilot. So you wouldn't run off the runway, crosswind or something. Then after you take off and your gear or flaps start to retract, there's another phase of autopilot comes in that keeps you at a takeoff speed and at say 5 degree nose up. You're climbing up, climbing out as they call it. And then when you reach cruise altitude, then the autopilot, you get almost like full autopilot, where everything, the captain takes his hand off the stick. But when he's taking off, captain's got his hand on that yoke. After you get into cruise, then he takes hands off. All he's got to do is watch the instruments. And takeoff and landing is the crew does the most work. Does those two instances. And when the airplane is not doing what you do on what you tell it to do on takeoff, you got a big problem, huge problem. And the autopilot is the you. Let's put it this way: you can come to the takeoff point on the runway, hit the autopilot switch, and the airplane takes off, climbs out at the altitude you set it, and take whatever course that you put in. If you fly from New York, California, you take off going east, your autopilot will bring the airplane back, put you right over Canada, all the way and bring you back down to LA without the captain touching the yoke.
Hmm.
But when
Yeah.
you have a problem like what the 737 that they have now, this Neo, they have to do something about. If I was Boeing, I will go back in and put a switch on that yoke, because you can't install a switch on that yoke that will disconnect the autopilot when that AOA fails.
They're saying there's a software update coming. I don't trust a software update, for something that large of that capacity. I'm a person who works in cybersecurity, and when you do code analysis, static code analysis, dynamic code analysis, that takes time. And Boeing, as big as they are, I'm very surprised that they didn't catch this.
I was going to say that they thought that was going to be like a simple software patch.
It is
No,
to them it's a software patch. That's what they're saying this morning.
Yeah.
But that stuff is usually caught when you're doing code analysis. So before you even release the software, it has to go through a code analysis review by security, your application security, as well as your developers and your engineers before it's even released, and then it's signed off. Somebody signed off on bad code here, so I don't it'd be interesting to see what happens, because they have to pay all of those global airline companies for grounding all these planes, and this is going to hurt Boeing going forward. This is right now they already lost $1 billion just right off the rip. They lost $1 billion.
Imagine that if Boeing is making, I don't know, 5 airplanes a month, all those airplanes coming out of there just sitting on the tarmac, they're not going into service.
Exactly.
And then all the airlines, United, American, Southwest, they are paying them, and those airplanes fly full. I'm not kidding. I've never been on one that was not full, even on holidays, bro. Those 737s fly full, and they've even put them on long haul, especially the Neo now, which is larger to carry like 160 people. Long haul routes from Washington to LA, Washington to San Fran. So they're losing a lot of money, losing quite a bit of money.
Yeah, absolutely they are. They lost $1 billion right off the first day.
Yeah.
So they had to take that into consideration. But they're losing $1 million every few minutes or something like that. I think it's like every 90 seconds they lose $1 million. So I don't want to be in head of IT or head of software development. If I was that guy, I would just quit. I would just leave.
I don't care who is. If I was the VP of Boeing, who was responsible for, if I was VP, I would. I don't care what they did with the software, how they correct the software. I would put a switch under the yoke of that aircraft, that when the captain wants to disconnect that the sensor, the information from the AOA, that just like he did with the old system, just pull back on your yoke. Just pull back or push forward on your yoke. It disconnects the system, because you're flying erratically. I'm serious. When you can't control the airplane, when the autopilot is thinking for you, you got a big problem.
This is artificial.
And that happened with Air France coming out of Brazil. I don't know if you guys remember that Air France airplane that crashed.
Yeah.
And killed everybody, because these guys were depending on the airplane to fly itself, and that's what happened.
Yeah, this is gonna makes Airbus look better, and probably cautious Airbus, right? From a system design standpoint, where they say, well, maybe we're gonna hold off on artificial intelligence. We're not gonna do the same thing. If they're saying that this is a fault of artificial intelligence, there's gonna be so many people held accountable for this. Who implemented it? Who designed it? Who signed off on it? Because all this stuff is checked. All of this stuff is done up in from a project management standpoint. It's all signed off. There's all types of people who are associated with the project that have signed off on this. So it's interesting to see what happens. Even
the airlines, when you have a problem like that on takeoff, you have to the FAA used to have a computer in our office. The guy can come in and look at the computer, look at any airplane, look at the history of any airplane that he wanted to. If the FAA figure that there's a problem, they can come in and look at your maintenance record, see how you fix the problem and all that. And when you got a problem like that, there's nothing that you really can do. You know, when a pilot rides up on takeoff, nose pitched up, I corrected, nose pitched up again, I corrected, nose pitched up again, I corrected. Finally, I turned off the paddle switches and flew the airplane manually.
Hmm.
When it happens the third time, the FAA is supposed to tell you, look, hey, this airplane can't fly, put it on the ground, fix it. And that's what's not happening. And from I've seen where the crew's been complaining to the FAA about this problem, and nobody was doing anything about it.
Now, I know. You have anything you want to add to this?
No, sir, man, y'all hit it out the park. There's no more I can add to that dialogue than what y'all talked about already because you all went through it thoroughly.
What's your take on artificial intelligence being used in transportation? If artificial intelligence is possibly the problem of bringing down the plane, do you still trust artificial intelligence? What's your take on it?
My thing on artificial intelligence, like we went over many a times before on our past shows, it has to be fed the correct data
Hmm.
in order for it to perform properly. Artificial intelligence don't just someone program artificial intelligence and all of a sudden it's just gonna be up walking and learning by itself like a newborn baby. It has to be fed the correct data, and not only data, but like I just said, the correct data, which will help it perform better. Obviously, how Dee explained it, the data that it was fed wasn't correct. It kept wanting to do one thing when it wasn't the correct thing. So it'll take time for it to be correct. I'm mixing my words here. It'll take time for it to be fed the correct data, and on top of that, to make a correct. I'm trying to say this, to form the data where we want it to be. So it'll take time. I'm not that, and that's not to say, oh, artificial is bad. It'll never be what we think it'll be or what the movies will think it'll be. That's short sighted. It just takes time to be what we want it to be.
Hmm.
Yep, artificial intelligence is good, but just like a human brain, it can go rogue at any time. And when it goes rogue, who is there to correct it? That's the problem. That's the problem as I see it.
Yeah, there was a movie. I want to say with Tom Hanks where he landed the plane inside the Hudson River. I forget the name of it right now. Um,
The the JetBlue flight.
is that what it was? When it was based on a true story though. It was based on a
Yeah,
true.
it is a true story. They took off and lost both engines, and they had to bring it down in Hudson.
Wow, it's a serious business.
Yeah, you gotta have somebody there that know what to do and how to do it. You know, in case something goes wrong, and something will go wrong, and it's inevitable.
Mhm. All right, next one is from Engadget.com. NVIDIA's $99 Jetson Nano is an AI computer for do-it-yourself enthusiasts. Sophisticated artificial intelligence generally isn't an option for homebrew devices when the mini computers can rarely handle much more than the basics. NVIDIA thinks it can do better. It's unveiling an entry level AI computer, the Jetson Nano, that's aimed at developers, makers, and enthusiasts. NVIDIA claims that the Nano 128 core Maxwell based GPU and quad core ARM A57 processor can deliver 472 gigaflops of processing power for neural networks, high res sensors, and other robotics features while still consuming a measly 5 watts. On the surface, at least, it could hit a sweet spot if you're looking to build your own robot or smart speaker. The kit can run Linux out of the box and supports a raft of AI frameworks, including, of course, NVIDIA's own. It comes equipped with 4 gigabytes of RAM, gigabit Ethernet, and the I/O you need for cameras and other attachments. Price, unsurprisingly, is the main hook. While the Nano isn't nearly as powerful as the higher end Jetson models, it's available now for $99 for individuals and $129 for production ready units. Destin, uh, whoever's not talking, please mute yourself.
I think that might be DE.
That puts it within range of hobbyists, inventors, and students who are willing to spend a little bit more, well, only a bit more, to create their own automated devices. This is big stuff. I mean,
Dude, oh my God, man. I mean, I'm already two things I could think of right offhand. So like, I can see like a new sort of like a new variant of RC cars, right? RC car racing where it's all AI, and you use these little $129 or $99 controllers as the brain to control the car. Also, I've mentioned this dude before, man. There's this kid. He's a kid, literally. He's probably like 18, 19 years old. He basically hacked his 2015 Honda Civic and using I think it was like what did he use? He used a OnePlus phone. He used it was one of those, not a Raspberry Pi, it was another type of Arduino type of a device, and used Open Pilot. And with those three things, he used the driver assist feature in the car and turned it into a fully self-driving car. So if you remove, because this one, it said it has like sensor and optical inputs on this thing.
Yes.
Right. So that would eliminate the need to utilize the OnePlus phone, right? In conjunction with the brain in order to like hack your car to make it self-driving. You could just use this. It's for $100.
So this, oh, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So this is like a souped up on steroids, better Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pi is a little bit different. This is application specific to artificial intelligence, whereas Raspberry Pi is a general computing. It's general computing.
So okay, application specific, which even I agree with complex, which makes it better in my opinion, because if it's application specific and it's AI, you can program it and continuously program it to have it update in terms of doing what you want it to do better. Oh wow, okay.
And it has all the optical and sensor inputs already in it too.
So I can see a lot of tinkerers doing things with this that's unimaginable right now.
Dude, look, you're talking rocketry, you're talking small scale rockets, that have like auto or self-correcting auto or self-correcting thrust. You this is for drones. You could use RC planes. I mean, damn, dude, there's so much. Okay, obviously robotics, like robots. If you wanted to start messing around making your own floor sweeper, like that's what this unit is basically for. Like for anything that's going to basically move itself and do something, and it needs like sensor and optical inputs and all that to give it its view of where it's at. Like this is just like a little simple $100 brain that'll essentially allow you to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna actually have a hangout on Saturday based on Raspberry Pi, Arduino, and other kits, including cube-based satellites. So we have that hangout coming out Saturday for Black Tech Talk.
Awesome.
Yeah, NVIDIA's not playing around, dude.
You can do all the stuff on the NVIDIA on most graphics cards, the NVIDIA and the AMD graphics cards, but the problem is that they're so expensive. They're $1,000. So this is just more. This is just more affordable. I heard Intel has their own coming out as well, so we'll see what happens with Intel.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the class for artificial intelligence at Udacity, you know, you're one step ahead with this.
You know, we keep saying, man, you know, you can either kind of sit by and, you know, let AI replace you, or you can develop it and deploy it.
Paul Bryant asks in the chat, is this the face of AI? It's the beginning of it. This is the C and say to artificial intelligence development.
Yep.
So if you think about a toddler pulling the string on a toy of a C and say toy, this is it. Now, if we can get Teddy Ruxpin to spit out some lyrics. Back in the day, we used to take the Teddy Ruxpin with the tape in the back.
Put LL Cool J tape in the back.
For the NWA, you know, F the police.
Oh God!
You see his lips moving around all crazy. Next one is from Engadget.com. MIT's AI can train neural networks faster than ever before. In an effort to democratize AI, researchers at MIT have found a way to use artificial intelligence to train machine learning systems much more efficiently. Their hope is that new time and cost-saving algorithm will allow resource-strapped researchers and companies to automate neural network design. In other words, by bringing the time and cost down, they could make this AI technique more accessible. Today, AI can design machine learning systems known as neural networks in a process called neural architecture search, NAS. But this technique requires a considerable amount of resource-like time, resources like time, processing power, and money. Even for Google, producing a single convolution neural network, often used for image classification, takes 48,000 GPU hours. Now, MIT researchers have developed a NAS algorithm that automatically learns a convolution neural network in a fraction of time. Just 200 GPU hours. That's really good. Speeding up the process in which AI designs neural networks could enable more people to use and experiment with NAS, and that could advance the adoption of AI. While this is certainly not uncomplicated, it could be a step toward putting AI and machine learning in the hands of more people and companies, freeing it from the towers of tech giants. This is where we are. We just got finished. Talking about that in the last article.
It is upon us.
Okay.
Let me throw this. Go ahead. I'm just gonna go pick.
When I say neural, maybe I didn't get it. Maybe okay. When I say neural networks, what exactly do they mean?
The intellectual, basically intellectual highway that is used for artificial intelligence.
Think about it as like there's intelligence and then there's your brain, right? So you have the artificial intelligence, and then you have, just like how your brain has neural pathways.
Yeah, I know that.
Right. Okay. So a neural network functions much in the same way.
So between different AI computers.
Right, and we're talking about the amount of like processing power it takes, and the amount of time it takes for like basically a signal to go from one neuron to the next.
Okay.
Similar. Think about it just like your brain.
Gotcha.
It's all mirrored. It's mirrored. Artificial intelligence and neural networks is mirrored from how our brains actually work.
Okay.
I just want to share this. I know we go over this quite a bit, but this is Udacity Artificial Intelligence Nano Degree Program. Spend 10 hours of your week to advance your career. 2.3 million jobs opening up by 2020. You see a plethora of tracks, but the first one is AI programming with Python. That's step one. If you click on that, and then let me see. It's 1 3 month term. Study 10 hours a week. Complete in 3 months. And the prerequisite knowledge, formal prerequisites include basic knowledge of algebra and basic programming in any language. That includes JavaScript. Introduction to Python is the first, and then Jupyter notebooks, NumPy, Anaconda, Pandas, and Matpilot. Linear algebra essentials and calculus essentials, neural networks. I wish I was, I wish I was 18 again, man, and I need to try
Right?
math.
Man, I'd be
I'd
all
be,
in.
yeah, I'd be in beast mode.
Yep. Hey, Mike Paul asked, when to get your, he says, can basically in the reference to neural networks, can that be Skynet?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's basically what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you start creating stuff like ant miners that are able to process a lot of that power on the ground through either people's cell phones or other IoT devices such as TVs and Alexas and all those little IoT devices. Those things have processors in them too, so you can leverage a lot of those hardware resources for that very purpose.
LG is incorporating like the IoT and neural network infrastructure into its new appliances.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah.
They have to for all this stuff to work. All right, this one is from PCGames.com. Forget graphene CPUs. AMD says we're stuck on silicon for at least 7 to 10 years. The key players in the PC industry have already been laying out their fresh plans for world computing domination, and the Game Developers Conference and Graphics Technology Conference haven't even started in the earnest yet. The latest round of computing announcements have come from the Rice, Oil, and Gas HPC conference, where Norad also suggested that without 3D stacking, AMD's chiplet technology is just a quick fix for a failure of Moore's law. Intel has also used the conference to announce that its 10 nanometer production process is back on track and ahead of where it is expected to be, with products coming sooner to market. The latest news, however, is looking much further into the future. In response to the silicon transition question from the audience at the Rice, Oil, and Gas HPC conference in Houston, Narad says the simple answer to the question is over the next 7 to 10 years. No, I don't see that. I think there's a clear path on using traditional silicon down to about 3 nanometer geometry. So another couple of process nodes, which we'll get to in about 5 or 6 years. I think that I think after that it gets a little fuzzier. Obviously, we got the dice on the quantum off to the side, and the quantum question throws everything into flux in my brain. The whole quantum computing thing fries my lobes every time I think I've got even the most vague handle on it. But it's happening, and there are even cloud-based quantum machines you can book time on right now, and they look beautiful too. So when does AMD reckon we're going to have quantum computing fully realized? Narad's a little more vague about this expectation here. Quantum will mature in a, quantum will mature in 10 to 100 years, he says. I would put it probably it's not 10, it's probably more like 20 to 20 or 30 years. That's either a long time away or not very far away, or maybe both at the same time. Who knows? Anything's possible in the quantum game. Whatever it looks like, we'll be stuck using standard silicon CPUs for another 10 years or so. But that's not so bad. It served us pretty well so far. So that answers Paul's question that he had a few weeks ago about quantum computing.
And it seems like he's mum, very vague about the time frame. But to talk about graphene CPUs and, they're still at least 10 years off. I mean, see, there's also you also have there's graphene variant materials as well. So it doesn't necessarily, it may not necessarily have to be graphene, but it could be like a hemp derived graphene, or some other organic carbon that molecularly ties close to graphene. So there could, that's why I, in kind of taking what he's saying, or it could be 10 years, could be 100 years, right? Depending upon, how they bring that graphene tech into commercial production. But I also agree too, I can't really see silicone going away just yet, because it's still largely in use, and there really hasn't been like a graphene alternative to come behind it at an affordable cost.
I think I understand what you all are talking about, speaking about. I don't have my thoughts together on this one. So what he's okay. So obviously the common thought of the next type of technology, well, material to use to build technology is graphene, because it has so many advances over silicone. But what he's saying, because of the production of graphene is so tedious and so cost or labor consuming, that jump isn't going to be made within the next couple of years like people think.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay.
Because the stuff's it's supremely expensive right now. So to make, chipsets out of it, I mean, I would imagine that the first applications for that stuff are going to be for, extremely expensive, like
Government type of deals.
Yeah. Before you see it trickle down into like consumer products.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be beneficial for them, because they'll make their money back 10 times over once they get into the process. So they'll be the first ones to take the hit on the chin. All right, this one is from space.com. The new space age. Experts ponder the future of cosmic exploration. In 10 to 50 years, spaceflight might take us to the surface of the red planet. Excuse me one second. In 10 to 50 years, spaceflight might take us to the surface of the red planet, to the discovery of an Earth-like exoplanet and beyond. But according to a group of experts, this future will depend on international collaboration, determination, and increasing access to space for people around the world. This Pi Day, scientists, astronauts, artists, engineers, and designers gather to discuss our future in space as we near the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 lunar landing. The event, called Beyond the Cradle 2019, envisioning a new space age, hosted speakers ranging from former NASA astronaut Leland Melvin and Mark Okren, a linguist who invented the Klingon language, and even glass artist John Simpson. These speakers took a keen look at how art, science fiction, space exploration technology, and more all work together to advance space exploration and spaceflight. The event, which took place at Massachusetts Institute of Technology Media Lab in Cambridge, also included workshops and QAs, questions and answers, which it allowed audience members to participate. At one panel, a diverse group of professionals gathered to discuss what space exploration might look like in 10 to 50 years. Moderator Dava Newman, an Apollo program professor of aeronautics and astronautics and engineering systems at MIT, led the panel, which included Leon Alkali, a JPL fellow and manager in the Office of Strategic Planning, Sarah Seeger, a professor of physics, planetary science, and aeronautics and astronautics at MIT, Erica Wanga, a payload sales director at Blue Origin and Space IL, co-founder, Jonathan, I won't pronounce his last name. Basically, this was an event, where it's kind of like the Lollapalooza of space exploration.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we would have the same discussions, but we'll probably have the discussion on Saturday.
I mean, I think we do. I mean, to somewhat of a somewhat degree, we have these types of discussions. But they're getting a lot of. They're bringing futurists, artists, right, all together to kind of talk about what a collective space exploration would look like a global, like a Earth space exploration effort, and what that kind of culture, what the makeup of that would be in terms of the art and everything else that would go along with it. I mean, I think that you're right. That's like dialogue we haven't even scratched the surface on. Like, what would that look like for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree that these talks are needed. 100% agree. But rarely are thoughts about what the future will be come to fruition. Maybe bits and parts of what people say will come to fruition, but it's good that they're having these talks about going to space exploration and how the immediate future in terms of how we can start to do that, and up to the point where we go out into space and explore and go to different celestial planets and stay. But I myself am a believer of humanity, and humanity will not prove you wrong. When I say that, and I'm not saying all this to say to poo-poo the fact that we will go to space, but what I'm trying to say is humanity will still be the same. For space exploration for one group of people may be different for another group of people, and I believe as Black people, we should have that type of not technology, that type of talk to say, well, what will it look like for us?
For us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have something you want to add, or I know you have a lot of noise coming from you.
Now I'm learning.
All right. All right, next one is from the NewYorkPost.com. Japanese scientists say they figured out where Ryugu asteroid is from.
Wow.
Japan's Hayabusa 2 spacecraft has been hanging around the asteroid known as Ryugu for several months now. It first arrived in late 2018 and in February fired a projectile into the surface to collect a sample from the rock. It has plenty of work to do, but things are moving along nicely. Now, after learning more about the asteroid itself, Japanese scientists believe they know where the object originated, narrowing down its possible asteroid parents to a pair of larger rocks, conclusively determining Ryugu's origins won't be easy. But the color of the asteroid has helped researchers narrow things down quite a bit. In a new research paper published in Science, an international team of scientists described a variety of characteristics they've been able to observe thanks to the images from Hayabusa 2. They've been able to determine the parent body of the Ryugu had at least some water ice on its surface and possibly organic molecules as well. Ryugu is incredibly dark by any standard, and it's thought to be one of one of the darkest objects in our entire solar system. That might be hard to believe when you see images shot by Hayabusa 2, but it's important to remember that the tools to probe its probe is equipped with were designed specifically to capture the detail of the rock's dark surface. As Science News reports, the rock's color also helped scientists trace its potential parents to just two other known asteroids. The first is a 55-kilometer wide asteroid known as Polona, and the second is a smaller 37-kilometer wide rock known as Eulalia. Eulalia, sorry. Both are much larger than the 900-meter wide Ryugu, and all are similar in features. Eventually, Hayabusa 2 will return to Earth, but only after collecting additional samples from Ryugu. Those samples will tell researchers a lot of the rock's path and will likely help them nail down its parents. Lionel, what do you think about this?
It sounds like something hit this larger asteroid and shaved off 2 or 3 large pieces of it, or it. Hmm, that's what the article is saying to me, or it came from a larger planet where a larger asteroid hit it. Much like how something hit the Earth and created the moon, but it created smaller asteroid bodies. But having water ice and other forms of, I think it's organic carbon based, I'm say life on it. It's interesting to say the least.
DE, you have anything to add to this?
I don't know if you might have stepped away.
Yeah, go ahead, Complex.
I was going to say, I think that's interesting from the standpoint of, so just a hypothetical scenario. If you say, if you claim an asteroid, right, and then you say, okay, well, this is actually a part of these other 2 asteroids too. Could you then, by virtue of knowing where that one came from, claim the other 2?
I don't think you can actually claim it. I mean, yeah, you found it, but there's nothing you can actually do with it, right? I mean, it's not you're gonna bring it back to Earth. But they said it had bacteria on it. That's really concerning.
Well, I'm talking about from a
industrialization standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I mean, because you haven't planted your flag on it, right? I mean, how do you secure something like that?
Well, you planted your spacecraft on it, right?
No, the spacecraft is not planted on it. It actually sent some hooks down and it grabbed whatever material it needed and it pulled it off.
Okay.
Yeah,
but you didn't plant a flag in the process.
Oh no, it's not that easy. There's the nations are crafting interplanetary rules. Well, you could say interplanetary rules. They're crafting rules where it's not going to be that easy to say, well, because anybody can go out there and plant 50 flags on 50 different asteroids and say, well, these are ours, and don't do nothing for the next 50 to 100 years.
But I mean, I guess from a legal standpoint, if you claim it, it's yours, right?
Well, like I said, they're crafting interplanetary rules.
Yeah, so, I mean we start going into the realm of exopolitics and galactic treaties and all of that. I mean, well, that's the reason why I just throw the question out there to bring the subject up, because when we start talking about exploration, we get into the realm of exopolitics, and maybe we should do a hangout just strictly on that to familiarize people with the concept of exopolitics.
Yeah, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where, say, Japan went out and claimed a very rich asteroid, and then these other countries said, "Well, you had an unfair advantage because your technology is more advanced than
Right,
us."
right. That's
But
what I mean.
now
Does this open up like
you're on
that
the
can of
same
worms?
page, and
Yeah.
you don't want no uh, planetary war. That you don't want that. So they're establishing rules to before this whole thing jump off to the degree that we talk about.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we know about rules and how they always seem to get broken.
Yeah, they may get broken, but still, you still need to have some type of foundation.
Yeah, Gear Znet, he says, yeah, you can't claim heavenly bodies unless you're willing to fight everyone else for it. Well, I mean, we on a previous hangout, we there was one asteroid that was estimated to be worth, how much was it, Lionel?
Well,
It was that.
a few of them are worth a couple quintillion dollars.
Okay, so yeah, I think that would be something worth fighting over.
Mhm. Well, that's where you have your Star Wars comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
That's a real that's a real thing. I mean, and you're not going to be able to see it from Earth, right? You're not going to be able to walk on your balcony and go see a fight, a war in space.
Yeah,
It's not like
that'd be like the Wild West. You only hear about it.
that. Yeah, until you find a few bodies fall out the sky. All right, let's get
Mm.
to the next one. All right, this one is from space.com. 2020 Mars helicopter could open alien skies to exploration. That's a pretty neat picture. It is a image on the Black Brain Trust right now. This live stream. A few brief hops in the Martian air 2 years from now could o- could help open alien worlds to an entirely new kind of exploration. An autonomous mini helicopter will fly with NASA's Mars 2020 rover mission, which is scheduled to launch July of that year and land on the red planet in February 2021. The Bantam chopper is a stripped down technology demonstration, and it will make a maximum of five sorties in the Martian atmosphere. Success in this pioneering work would be a big deal, extending the reach of humanity's robotic explorers, which are currently restricted to the surfaces of alien worlds or the dark realms far above them. We envision helicopters opening doors to new types of exploration on Mars. Harvard Grip flight controlled aerodynamics lead for Mars helicopters said Wednesday during a presentation with NASA's Future in Space Operations FISO working group. One day, more advanced versions could serve as scouts for rovers or explore the red planet on their own. Added Grip, who's based at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and California Institute of Technology, which are both in Pasadena. In the future, we could imagine doing things like engaging in regional exploration using multiple helicopters or going to inaccessible areas or biologically sensitive areas using small helicopters. He said the Mars helicopter weighs 4 pounds, 1.8 kilograms, and has a body count of a body of about the size of a softball. It carries a range of avionics and communications gear, a small solar panel, and rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, survival heaters to keep its electronics warm through the frigid Martian night, and a navigation camera. The helicopter doesn't have any science instruments, but it is outfitted with a high resolution colored imager. What do you do you think about this on?
Reconnaissance work.
Well, yeah, it'll allow us to explore the Martian terrain at a much quicker rate. Also, with what's been going on with the other rovers being buried in a planet-wide dust storm or having any other problems along the way, those are those. Yes, those may be failures or successes, but those are still learning um, measures that we can learn from that. And with this, we can equip it to take care of itself during those um, situations. Just like I said, it has equipment that'll protect. It has things that'll protect the equipment during the frigid nights of Mars. So really, this will allow us to explore and map the planet at a much quicker rate. Send a few of these and a few of these mapping certain sections of the planet, certain craters, or that one large mountain like Mount Olympus or something like that. It will allow us to map it at a much faster rate, detect the different minerals that's on a planet, detect important things. So when humans finally get to go to Mars, we will have previous information that to go on once we go there. So in my opinion, this is a next logical step. It's pretty impressive. I didn't think about sending a helicopter type project up there.
I didn't think
What?
they had the gravitational ability to do something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think the first thing that needed to happen was that when the rover went there, where was it? The whatever that the little thing that they sent out there. So when it did like all of its atmospheric analysis, right, sent back the data that supported that's the information that it sent back supported the idea that an aerial vehicle would be able to operate in that environment. So next thing was, okay, we get these little softball sized helicopters with powerful cameras on them, and we image the entire surface of the place. And then I would even imagine that there's going to be like other variances of the same type of little helicopter thing, but then these will be fitted with more like spectral analysis devices on them to do more actual like ground composition type of reconnaissance and other. I think it'll get more sophisticated with the type of information and data that it'll collect. It makes sense if your whole plan would be to send a manned mission there at some point here in the, I would say, not so distant future. You're going to start sending a lot of this type of stuff out there to do all the geo mapping and to do all of that stuff, so that when humans get there, they'll have some familiarity with where they're at. They'll have an entire map. They'll know what's what, where, the distance, and all of that.
And well, it's still a planet, so there's going to be some type of gravitation on it. May not be like Earth. Well, it won't be like Earth, but it's still a large planet. And to people's surprise, Mars do have a moon. Phobias, it's very small, but still, there's enough gravity there to have a celestial object circling the planet. So it'll have a little bit of gravity to where you need to boat things down.
With all this, these planes falling out the sky from Boeing, it makes you really wonder. You lose a helicopter out there, you're screwed.
Right.
But then that opens up, another sort of market, for third party people to actually come out there and rescue certain items that are left behind. Because I think there is a United Nations sort of treaty that says you can't leave your trash behind on a planet or on the moon or something like that.
In the beginning, but after 100 years, that may go out the window. But that's still a good place to work at, because we don't want, like I said, I believe in humans. We
Really?
yeah. You may you, you may be second guess what I said, but yeah, we're gonna find a way to do whatever, and the first people that go there are going to abide by the rules. But as more and more people come, we just going to revert back to our mean. So
Mm.
in the beginning, that'll work. But like I said, 100 years from now, well, from that point, yeah, it's
Yeah, but
going.
you can't pollute the oceans on Earth and then go pollute somebody else's planet. Like
Well, wait. Somebody else's?
well, we don't. I mean, it's not ours to claim, right? So it belongs to something else or somebody else, right? We don't know
Well,
when those people may come back.
who? What? Mars?
Any planet, I'm saying in general, you can't just go there, leave your trash there, and say, well, we're just moving on from now,
Yeah, we shouldn't. We shouldn't do that.
because you
We have a
contaminate it,
tendency
right?
to do it. Yeah, we have a tendency to do it, but we shouldn't. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about morals; it's more about the principle of you brought your trash. You take your trash with you when you leave, and it seems to me that NASA, seems to get away with just dumping
Litter.
items. Dumping items all over the place. And then they want to come to my house and tell me, oh well, it's a $50 fine for putting your trash out too early before the trash people come the day before. So it's BS. Anyways,
Tell them how you feel, Mike.
Right, right, right. You good? Did you get off the
Well,
chest?
Mike, look at the space around Earth at the moment. I mean, how many little bits of satellites do we have hanging around out there? Nobody's using them. Well, I shouldn't say nobody's using them, but you know, they're there, and it's increasing. If it doesn't fall back to Earth, it's going to stay there.
it actually burns up before it even comes back into Earth, for the most part. But the stuff that does linger out there, I think Airbus. I think we covered an article some months ago about Airbus coming up with a trash truck, a space trash truck to go out there and pick up the junk that's out there. I think we covered it a few weeks ago about some kind of drone or something like that, spearfishing,
Yeah, like a big
space
net.
junk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're gonna see. And one of the ways you may need like a big net to just a big stretchable net to get all that stuff out the way.
Hmm. But then somebody's gonna have to pay for that, right? I mean, that's where all the jobs are going. The opportunities are gonna be in, you know, a planetary Sanford and Son, with his red pickup truck. Instead, you got a drone that's out there throwing trash in the back and collecting it.
I was just about to go there.
No, it's true.
No, you're absolutely right.
It's true because somebody has to. I mean, you're gonna have to do the recycling up there because all that stuff is actually recyclable material. When you
And
really
and
break it
expensive
down,
material at that.
yeah, a lot of the lithium ion batteries and
The gold
Gold. Yep.
foiling. Yeah.
Gold. Yep.
What about the technology and the information on those satellites? A lot of them are military, ex-military use. So a
Government
lot of
contracts.
information on those things.
Yeah, I think you'd probably, you contract, you would probably contract with these people, and certain stuff would be reclaimable, certain stuff would have to be returned to them or something, or have to be destroyed.
well, they're actually on the modules itself. So the data is in the storage arrays itself, and those storage arrays can actually be plugged out. I believe there was a company we covered last year that had the ability to swap out the motherboards or the logic boards on those satellites and actually bring them down. So you have the ability to just pull the logic board out like the same way you pull out the Nintendo cartridge out of a console.
Mm.
Because keep in mind, a lot of that technology is old. It's not really. It wouldn't really be usable because it's proprietary. So it'll take you some time to actually figure out what it is.
Yeah, you're at the value is going to be more in reclaiming the materials.
Yeah, unless it's contaminated with radiation or something like that, cosmic radiation or something like that. You can't probably touch it anyways. All right, get to the last one. All right, this one is from theguardian.com. Scientists grow mini brain on the move that can contract muscle. Scientists have grown a miniature brain in a dish with a spinal cord and muscles attached. An advance, an advance that promises to accelerate the study of conditions such as motor neuron disease. The lentil-sized gray blob of human brain cells were seen to be spontaneously sent out uh, tendril-like connections to link up with the spinal cord and muscle tissue, which was taken from a mouse. The muscles were then seen to visibly contract under the under the control of the so-called brain organoid. The research is the latest in a series of increasingly sophisticated approximations of the human brain grow in the laboratory. This time with the something approaching a central nervous system attached. Madeline Lancaster, who led the work at the Medical Research Council's Laboratory of Molecular Biology in Cambridge, said, "We like to think of them as mini brains on the move." The scientists use a method, use a new method to grow the miniature brain from human stem cells, which allowed the organoid to reach a more sophisticated stage of development than previous experiments. The latest blob shows similarities in terms of the variety of neurons and their organization to human foetal brain at 12 to 16 weeks of pregnancy. However, the scientists said the structure was too small and primitive to have anything approaching thoughts, feelings, or consciousness. It's still a good it's still a good idea to have that discussion every time we take it a step further, said Lancaster. But we
You
agree
think?
generally that we're still very far away from that. While a fully developed human brain has 80 to 90 billion neurons, the organoid has a couple million, placing it somewhere between a cockroach and a zebrafish in terms of volume of gray matter. Previously, the sophistication of the organoid scientists have had been able to achieve had been limited by the lack of nutrient supply of the center of the blob. Once it reached a certain size, the neurons in the center would become cut off from their nutrient supply and start to die off, and the structure would stop developing. DE, you sent this in. What do you think about this?
I think it's got a lot of potential for like people who got damaged neurons, especially like say a person who lost the use of his arms and legs from accidents and all that. If they can actually kind of like create a connection between your brain and then another connection where the nerve tissue is damaged,
Hmm.
but it also has the potential for stronger, like say if you want to make carbon fiber booms, you know what I'm saying? You can embed these things inside your bones, and you have communication between whatever your feet and your brain and all that. That's. Do we want to make that kind of man though?
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say from how it reads, you're now like now you can grow like brain matter. You can grow all of these different things, and in its development stages, while it goes through its development stages, that's why I thought when he said like at every step we have to kind of like stop and have a discussion. And I'm like, yeah, you think, right? Because with every step that you find that you're able to do more and more, you start going in the realm of what DE was just talking about. Because in my mind, I was thinking of like full on Ghost in the Shell type fusion between like human and machine,
Hmm.
right? Where the lines are so blurred right? Because they also reference consciousness. You know, they referenced a few things in there, and I was like, whoa, okay, that's deep. It's real deep because, or I mean, are we talking about? Are we literally talking about injecting a consciousness in it? You know, it kind of speaks to is consciousness something that's kind of developed as all of this comes along? I mean, is it, or will AI actually play the role of the consciousness? You know what I
Well,
mean? This. Go ahead, D.
well, if you put this thing in your body, it can actually, from what I'm looking at, what I read, it seems like it can actually learn from your brain. You know, because it's going to be connected to your brain, and it's like its individual brain, which will take in information and process it like your brain does, and act like a it's like a computer. I'm
Right.
hooked to a network. I'm hooked to a network like like say I'm hooked to Google, and if you know my computer downloads information from Google, it gives information to Google, and my computer become like a miniature computer at Google. You know what I'm saying? It's like taking information in, and it's learning, and it's learning to do what your brain is doing, and it also can replicate it. If your brain failed, it can continue to operate whatever system is operating right now.
So that would mean then that, and this man, okay, well, I don't know, maybe we're, I don't want to try to take this off of a tangent, but it kind of maybe even speaks to the nature of our true selves, right? Where, you know, our consciousness and our physical body they're actually two separate things, right? Housed into one biosuit. Right. So this would suggest that, well, the brain is just essentially a processor. It doesn't necessarily um, house your consciousness, so to speak. That's why I was saying, okay, well, okay, you have like regular brain matter, and then what? You could actually put an AI chipset in, and that gives this being, the AI is the personality in this, right? But it has a normal functioning brain, kind of like you and I have.
Yeah, it's basically like adding a Raspberry Pi to a person.
Yeah. And so there's like an algorithm that runs on the AI that serves as its personality, quote unquote, or something, right? But the thinking, right, is done by the actual gray matter. I mean, that's
I
oof.
know you had something you want
Um, this is very interesting. The first part of what D said is interesting to me, but then the prolong ideas, it's like, wow, this does have far-reaching capabilities.
to? Well, let me add this EDX into this because I think we've discussed this before, but
And I just want to address a quick question. A self-care boss was asking, she says, consciousness with what? Well, the article we just covered, they were talking about how these mini brains are being grown in labs, basically. And we're the brains themselves are actual, they actually have functionality. Okay, so and what DE was also speaking to is that it's essentially kind of like just like a clone, or like basically a computer ready to be used, right? You feed it input, and then it does what it does, and it can learn from you, right? And it functions as a brain. But then we're also bringing in the question of consciousness, right? Because the brain is just, it's doing thinking, but what serves as the input to do the thinking? Like what's giving it its, what's giving it the data or the input to do the thinking? The brain itself does not contain any consciousness. And that's where we get into that real sketchy discussion about, okay, so you could be a person, or you could have people who are essentially human, but are completely actual, they're actually controlled by artificial intelligence, but they have a biological brain.
I'm sharing my screen because there's a actual certificate program on edx.org from Harvard University about the fundamentals of neuroscience, which is what we were talking about. This program is really based on is what it entails is what you'll learn is the fundamentals of bioelectricity, how you can do neuroscience in your home.
Look at that. You could do it in your home.
Hmm.
Hmm.
How neurons communicate with each other, how sensory perception works in the brain, the basic anatomy of functional areas of the brain. So there's three courses that makes up the full program,
Yeah. And
and these are
theoretically, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
these are accredited programs. This is an accredited program from Harvard. So you need 4 to 15 weeks per course, 3 to 5 hours per week per course, and 3 courses in the program. And the cost is $267.30.
And to even take it a step further into that gray area, I referenced Ghost in the Shell, but now it's all starting to kind of click, because if you have something like, again, just you have like a sort of like a base brain, right, that can just receive its inputs from anything, and then you have an AI interface that kind of serves as its choir director, if you will. Okay, then you pipe that into like the neural networks we were speaking about earlier, right? That's where you can start to theoretically have like connected humans in that sense. Man, that it is kind of scary, and I see why in that article the guy was like, okay, every time we made a step, we have to really stop and like have a discussion about what's going on here. Because I mean, just in my brain starts going off and thinking about this stuff, and I can easily see a lot of I don't know, I don't know if you want to call it ethically or ethically questionable applications for this type of stuff, or at least what it'll do is it'll push the boundaries of what we deem ethical.
It allows people who have a ideology based on supremacy to create more slaves.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's ethical changes with each, well, really generation, really.
Mhm.
So the next generation might accept these things as normal, while we are. Let's look at the cell phone. You know, 50 years ago, nobody expected the cell phone to be hooked up to everything on the planet. So as things go by, we're going to change.
Right, people are more dependent upon them now than what they were before. I mean, before you would just you would just go out in the street and it wasn't a big deal not to have a cell phone. Now you have to have it. It's a utility now, so it's a utility connected to a service, a utility service. Let me just share my screen one more time. I do have another item that didn't make it to the docket that I wanted to actually share. This one is from New China TV. A group of Chinese university students have built an unmanned boat for collecting garbage from the water.
That's useful. That's very useful.
It's 3 times faster and efficient as a human being. What I find interesting is that they're manually driving it, but you would think it has some form of artificial intelligence to collect the garbage that it sees, rather than um, it may collect a fish or something like that.
It looks like it's just skimming off the surface, whatever floats, like cups, plastic cups, styrofoam cups, or plastic bottles. It looks like it's just skimming off the surface of the water.
That's
Com-
interesting. I like that.
yeah, that is dope. I think that.
I would imagine that there's going to be it'll be like those little Roomba type vacuum cleaners that just kind of roam around your house. I would imagine that those would ultimately be fitted with just something that maybe some sort of GPS controlled, and it'll just roam around lakes and stuff, just picking up trash.
It depends where it is. Some of these streams and things of that nature have like broken trees and branches, and I know in Boston, some of the ponds have like shopping carts in there and Timberland boots and stuff like that. Just
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Like it'll the more I guess maybe advanced version of this, or the next version, maybe have like sensors that'll detect branches and all that kind of stuff, and it'll just maneuver the little boat around it and away from it, and it'll just detect small little whatever floating garbage or whatever, and just collect it. But these sorts of innovations are, this is where AI and robotics does have application, quite frankly, because in lieu of people just not being able to get over the litter bug, you know, and why not just have robots just clean it up?
right. It'd be interesting if they could do something like that with like an oil spill.
Now, I've seen some interesting technology related to oil spills, but this was more about like additives that would attach to oil and then just pull it out, right? And I actually I saw something, man, some years ago. There was this company, they made this substance, or this, it was like a pellet, or it was some something, and they sprayed it on this oil, and they left it there for maybe like 10-15 minutes, and then they just take a pump, and then they just start sucking this stuff up, right? And all it did, it literally pulled all the oil off of the surfaces of stuff, off the water. If it was on like plants or branches, it just pulled all the oil off. Now, whatever happened with that type of tech, and if it's ever been in use, I don't know, but I've seen some interesting things.
It basically extracted the oil from the object itself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was like an absorbent. So whatever they developed, what it did was it absorbs the oil, and then you just basically vacuumed up this substance, and the substance just you vacuumed it up with the oil it collected. I'll have to find that.
I'm actually just pulling up another article right now.
Okay, I'm gonna step away for 1 sec.
If anybody in the chat actually has an article that they want us to go over, you can actually drop it in the chat, and we'll go over it. We got 45 minutes left, so. Is it me or did everybody just disappear?
Yeah. You say he's pulling up another article.
Yeah, I have it right here. Just
Okay.
I didn't see anybody in the chat say anything. Well, no one has said anything for quite some time. So, all right, this one is from quantummagazine.org. how artificial intelligence is changing science. The latest AI algorithms are probing the evolution of galaxies, calculating quantum wave functions, discovering new chemical compounds, and more. Is there anything scientists can do that can't be automated? That's interesting. No human or team of humans could possibly keep up with the avalanche of information produced by many of today's uh, physics and astronomy experiments. Some of them record terabytes of data every day, and the torrent is only increasing. The Square Kilometer Array, a radio telescope slated to switch on in mid 2020s, will generate about as much data traffic each year as the entire internet. The deluge has many scientists turning to artificial intelligence for help. With minimal human input, AI systems such as artificial neural networks, computer simulated networks, or neurons that mimic the functions of a brains can plow through mountains of data, highlighting anomalies and detecting patterns that humans could never have spotted. Of course, the use of computers in aid to scientific research goes back about 75 years, and the method of manually poring over data in search of meaningful patterns millennia and originated millennia earlier. But some scientists are arguing that the latest techniques in machine learning and AI represent a fundamentally new way of doing science. One such approach, known as generative modeling, can help identify the much plausible theory among competing explanations for observational data based solely on data, based only on the data, and importantly, without any pre-programmed knowledge of what physical processes might be at work in the system under the study. Proponents of generated modeling see it as novel enough to be considered a potential third way of learning about the universe.
So it's like Occam's razor on steroids.
Mm. Traditionally, we've learned about nature through observation. Think of Johannes Kepler poring over Tycho Brahe's tables of planetary positions and trying to discern the underlying pattern. He eventually deduced the planets moving in elliptical orbits. Science, science has also advanced through simulation. An astronomer might model the movement of the Milky Way and its neighboring galaxy, Andromeda, and predict that they'll collide in a few billion years. Both observation and simulation helps scientists generate hypotheses that can then be tested with further observations. Generating model generating generative modeling differs from both of these approaches. This is interesting that scientists are worried that their jobs may be their jobs can be taken by the very thing that they created themselves. They put themselves out of business.
Well, I mean, we've kind of used that the hypothesis, test theory. That's largely been the scientific model, and you can't expect something that has superior thinking capabilities to rely on a lesser form of thought, if you will. That's why I was like, yeah, Occam's razor. If, for those who don't know, it's like an axiom that basically states that, the simplest explanation for something is usually going to be the most accurate, right? The simplest, most direct explanation will be like the most accurate. So,
do you believe that though?
I mean, it's not. That's not really like, it's not a conditional thing. It's basically just stating that, like, the simple, like, even something that can be highly complex, right? If you give it a simple explanation and then you give it like a convoluted one, right? The simplest one will usually is usually going to be, you can derive more from it than from a convoluted one. That's essentially what it's stating. It's stating that like simplicity and efficiency will ultimately win out always, right? So AI, I would assume, would go off of that basis, right? It would go off of that basis and then springboard from there to then engage in more highly advanced technical calculations, right? Whereas we do the hypothesis test method, right? You got to kind of test things out first, figure it out, go back to the drawing board. AI isn't going to be going back to no drawing board.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to start with a streamlined algorithmic approach and then build off of it. So yeah, it kind of does eliminate scientists in a lot of ways.
But I mean, a simple explanation could be like, oh, well, Dusty Beta Male Coon. And then all of a sudden, well, that solves everything. That explains everything.
I have no comment.
So with this technology, it's going to allow us to foresee more into the future in terms of multiple calculations at once, and yeah, foresee the future at a better. How I'm trying to say this. See the future better because of multiple calculations, and per those multiple calculations, and as time goes on, we're able to eliminate which ones that don't work, and per the ones that do work, we're able to plan even better as time goes on and approach that future date.
Mm-hmm. Let me share my screen one more time because this is almost almost forgot this a few weeks ago. This is the Artificial Intelligence Conference happening in New York, April 15th to the 18th in 2019. Basically, there's going to be multiple sessions. Intel's Artificial Intelligence Builder Showcase, sponsored sessions based on the past that you have, speed networking, Ignite, open reception. I haven't been to this particular event, but I have been to other ones. I think they're worth going to. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. What happened?
No, I can see it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll drop that in the I'll drop it in the chat, and you guys can look at it for yourself.
And real quick, I want Nicholas Fuller. He had posted an article here that he wanted us to cover.
Okay.
I'll put the link in the group chat over here, Mike. But Nicholas, I think this would be apropos for our geopolitics because it references Russian troops descending into Venezuela when the ish went down. So
oh well, that's not space and technology.
that'll be definitely a geopolitics piece for Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah, so I dropped the link in the chat, and if you're in New York, I mean, you definitely should at least get an expo pass and just go through the hallway. Actually, let me share my screen again because I think that some of this stuff is actually relevant because we're looking at the schedule. You see that training courses for deep learning TensorFlow. TensorFlow is what Google uses for duplex.
Okay.
Yeah. So they just matured it to their own perspective, but you can download TensorFlow from GitHub. And then you have AI for managers, deep learning with PyTorch, forecasting financial times series with deep learning on Azure. Azure is
Oh,
Microsoft's platform. Natural learning processing with deep learning. Oh, natural language. Sorry. Put deep learning to work. A practical introduction with using Amazon Web Services (AWS). It's actually not a bad lineup for the first few
Hmm.
hours. And then the next day they have bringing AI into the enterprise, deep learning methods for natural language processing, design thinking for AI, getting started with PyTorch, introduction, introducing the AI Fairness 360 kit. Also, 2 day. Those are the 2 day training courses.
You know, and for those folks out there that are listening to this and seeing all this type of stuff, you know, it may not necessarily be for you, right? But if you've got children, please, 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 like get their heads submerged into this stuff.
Hmm.
This is the core of a lot of what the STEM fields will ultimately be about. This is the software side of all of that. You know, the software development, the application side of it, all of that, it's going to be steeped in this stuff right here.
Hmm.
So it's a must that you know, especially you know our young boys, um, they have a solid grounding in things AI and deep learning and all that, robotics.
Let me see. Deep learning and GPU acceleration for data compression in time series database. That's really huge stuff. That's really huge stuff. Delivering cognitive computing solutions in the U.S. federal market. I'll skip right past that. Deploy machine learning for real impact bridge the gap between data scientists and IT. It's actually pretty interesting. Developing your own model tracking leaderboard in Keras. Executive briefing from cutting edge AI research to business impact. Learning from multi agent emergent behaviors in a simulated environment. And machine learning at Twitter. Deep dive into Twitter's timeline. Random search and reproducibility for neural architecture search. This is like a really big geek event. You know, if I was close to New York, I would actually go to it. I can't remember the black woman's name, but she used to work for Google, and she was like the head of like machine learning or something like that. I can't remember her name right now. She's fairly young too. Yeah, this is all dope to me, at least. Definitely mad I can't go to something like this. But there's another one coming to California as well, so we'll see what happens. Is anybody have any closing thoughts?
um, I don't know. Your suggestion is correct. If you got children, just bring them into any field that has something to do with technology. Any field. I mean, it from I don't know if I'm correct, but it appears like the old days, if you were a farmer, your kids came up to be farmers. If you were a chemist, your kids came up to be chemists because you passed the knowledge on to them. And we are moving into a day when that is seems like the way knowledge is going to be passed on because the people who control the learning don't want everybody to learn. They are choosing a few people to learn and then the rest to be just follow the whatever whatever program they set up. So if you are capable of passing on information to your children, then you better teach your children and make sure your children, no matter what they say, well, I like this or I like that. If you like this, if you like art, then you go through and study computer programming also. You know, two or three different. You can still do your art, but you have something else that you can do.
Right. All right. I just want to share this one, which is NISB, National Society of Black Engineers. They're having an
Oh, wait. I think Mike, you cut out there. Can you guys hear Mike? I'm not sure, Mike. I don't know because I can't hear you. Oh wait, okay. He's okay. Mike, he's jumped. All right, there he is. Yo, you there, Mike?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. Hey, can you kind of you kind of cut out once you started going into it.
Oh, I was just talking about the regions. So the regions are designated by different areas of the country itself. So Region One, I think, covers. Let me see if I can click on it. Oh, they don't have it set up here. Yeah, they don't have it set up here. But I think Region One covers from Canada all the way down to PA and Baltimore. I think something like that. Covers all whole New York and New England and tri-state region. But I definitely think that if you have the opportunity to go and you're in that area, you should actually go. Definitely an experience that you have to get for yourself.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Oh, my closing thoughts. Make sure you all show up on Saturday for the our Black Tech Talk on Q-based satellites, Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, and I think some projects as well. Projects to look forward to.
Hey, also, I think didn't do. I think did we say this Sunday? I think this Sunday, uh, myself and Anti Gravity, we're going to be bringing back the cannabis, hemp and cannabis hangouts that we did on the Business Wealth Power channel, which is like the sister channel to this one. But we're going to be bringing that back, and we're going to be bringing it back here and doing it on Sundays. I think we're doing it this Sunday. I'm going to follow up with Noah and make sure of that.
If you're going to, just send me an email.
Yeah, we'll add you on the email
Oh,
list.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And Lionel, you have anything? I think Lionel might be asleep now. My closing thoughts. Again, show up Saturday for Black Tech Talk, and we'll also have another show on Wednesday for geopolitics, and then Friday economics, and then as Complex said, Sunday we'll have cannabis talk.
Yes, sir.
All right, so thank you all for joining us, and have a good night.